Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we'll be looking at getting started with the Imperial Guard. But before we get into that, I just want to make a couple of announcements. So the first one is an apology. With this video, with these getting started videos, I normally try and get pictures of the models on the tabletop so you can see what the army will look like. I've not been able to do that for this one because we've been sorting all the Christmas decorations out, and the area that I normally use for gaming and showing my models and stuff, that's just that's all covered in the stuff that was in front of the Christmas tree and the Christmas decorations. So apologies for that. I'm going to save the audio, and I will re-upload this as a video in the new year probably with the images, the proper images attached. I've just not had a chance to photograph them during the week because by the time I get home from work, the natural light's gone, and I think they always look terrible if you just use a normal light bulb. And I couldn't get them done at the weekend because that's when we got the Christmas tree and stuff sorted. So apologies for the images on this this video. Because it's quite an iconic unit, I'll try and get some images up from like websites and things like that, but I'm not going to be able to get the whole army images up, I'm afraid. So apologies for that. The second thing is, if you haven't seen it already, then I'm doing an advent calendar, and I'm doing a competition to go with that. It's to win a copy of Waterloo from Warlord Games. So that's the starter box with a French and a British army in, and also a copy of Albion Triumphant Volume 2, which covers the Waterloo campaign. So obviously that's the book that accompanies that box set as well. So it's a fantastic prize. It's free to enter. Please take part. I'm going to put a link in the description down below to where you can see the first part of the Advent Calendar, Napoleon's March on Christmas, as I've called it. So click on that after the video and have a look at that and get involved. You know, it's why not? It's just a bit of good festive fun. So with those two things out of the way, then let's get on with today's episode on start collecting the Imperial Guard. Now, the Imperial Guard of Napoleon Bonaparte, they stand alongside the great formations of history, the Theban Sacred Band, Alexander's Companions, and the Teutonic Knights as a real symbol of the period. Now, because of their popularity, there's a lot of different manufacturers out there that make them, so we have quite a large element of choice of who to go with, so that's fantastic. As always, if I recommend a company that you don't like, or you find it easier to get your figures from somewhere else, if you're overseas for argument's sake, then go with those guys. You know, this is not me saying these are the best figures, this is just me providing an example. When we get into it, there will be one box that I will highly, highly recommend you do get, but the rest of them, particularly when I talk about the Grenadiers, then go with the one that suits you. That's what I've done, so there'll be a bit more of a specific thing with that one as well, but we'll get into that when we get into that. So, the rules in these videos are the same as always, although I've made one slight variation in that one, and that's that we've got an initial £100 to buy the core of our force from month one's pay packet, and then there's another 100 in the second month's pay packet. However, because we're going with the Imperial Guard, the most prestigious of formations, I'm going to be a little bit naughty and change month 2 to £150. After all, these are the Guard, and they're worth a little bit of extra money, I think. I would recommend, if you're interested in collecting the Imperial Guard, maybe don't go with it as your first army. It's a good addition to an existing army. So, for that matter, I'll be assuming that the person who's getting started with the Imperial Guard, they're not brand new to the hobby. They've already got glues and paints and things like that. So I won't be including that in the costs. It might be that they've already got a French Napoleonic army they want to add to it, or it might be that they've already played Games Workshop or Bolt Action or another similar game. Units are going to be 24 minis for medium, and that makes it 36 for large. And we're going to have 8 cavalry figures for a medium-sized cavalry regiment, and we're going to have 12 for a large one. Now, as always, I won't be adding postage and packaging to these costs either, but I also will be giving the RRP, the recommended retail price, of these from the manufacturer's website. Especially for plastic, there are many, many third-party companies out there, online retailers. The Outpost is one that I use regularly because it's local to me in Sheffield. They will provide a discount 10, 15, sometimes 20%. So while I'm not including postage and packaging, if you go to these third-party retailers, you can probably save that money even more if they give you free shipping. So we saw in the battle report between the French and British, the Battle of San Cristobal, there's a link for that down below as well, that the starter armies are actually quite balanced with each other. Due to their elite nature, however, I'm not sure this would be the case with the Imperial Guard. A battalion of them, while costing the same amount of money, is worth an entire brigade of line troops on the tabletop. So I'm going to do a separate video where we look at the army lists of the getting started armies, and we look at how many points they're worth and things like that, and maybe try and balance them against each other. I'm also going to use that to point out some strategies when putting together your brigades using the black powder army lists. But anyway, I don't want to get distracted too much on that. We'll go into that on that video. So, be advised, if you use all these units together against another starter army, it might be a bit of a challenge for your opponent. So, just be aware that all these units, they might be worth adding to an existing army, or maybe you go up against an opponent's starter army plus a few extras. Now, the Imperial Guard itself covers a lot of units, both infantry and cavalry, and they changed a lot over the Napoleonic period. So I think it's worth deciding what part of the Guard we're going to collect. Now, for this video, I'm going to suggest that we collect the Young Guard, as they did the majority of fighting that the Imperial Guard actually did, as you can see in my video series. And I'm also going to suggest that we do the Old Guard, because they're so iconic. So we've decided on, we're going to go Young Guard and Old Guard. So the first stop that we're going to do for our battalions is with Victrix. Now they do 3 different types of guard box, and each of those contains 60 figures and a sheet of flags. So that's a great start. Now, as I said, we're going to focus on the Old Guard, and we're also going to focus on the Young Guard. So that makes our first box purchase an absolute no-brainer. It is, of course, the Middle Guard. Now, but stay with me. We're not doing Middle Guard, we're sort of ignoring them for today. Well, mon ami, the reason I'm suggesting these is because the Middle Guard box is the exact same contents as the Old Guard Chasseurs box. So Victrix do 3 boxes. They do the Old Guard Grenadiers, Old Guard Chasseurs, and the Middle Guard. The Middle Guard and the Old Guard Chasseurs are the exact same contents, except with the Middle Guard box, you get some extra heads. You get 60 extra heads for them. So, as a bit of an additional bonus tip here, even if you're interested in getting the Old Guard Chasseurs, don't get the Middle Guard instead, because you get the same contents plus some free heads. It doesn't cost you any more. That's what you may as well go for. Now, that's £24.95. And because they're in their Long Guard issued greatcoats, there's no difference to see in uniform between the figures that we get and the Old Guard Chasseurs. So we can make both battalions of Old Guard Chasseurs with this box set, one of them in march attack and one of them firing, and that leaves us with 2 officers, 2 standard bearers, 2 drummers, 8 infantrymen, and a bunch of heads left over. Now, we're going to put the heads to one side, and the problem is with them, although we're going Young Guard, the heads have all got moustaches. Now, there's no reason that the Young Guard wouldn't have necessarily had moustaches, but I don't think they all would have done. So we're going to come to those in a second, because the remainder that we've got, I just ran through with the 8 infantrymen and the officers, etc., they're going to form the core of our first Young Guard battalion. Now, there's 3 ways of going with these heads for the Young Guard. The first is to use the heads as they are. They've got the right shakos on, and that's the important thing, with the big eagle on the front. And, you know what, I'm sure no one's going to complain. If you just say, these guys are Young Guard, most people aren't going to know the difference. So, yeah, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The second option is to use the same heads, but as I said, shave the moustaches off. Now, this can risk damaging the face of the mini, so I'd only recommend this approach if you've got a very steady hand and a very, very sharp blade. Now, this is very, very important. If you're ever doing anything with a knife, always cut away from you. But if you're doing anything as such fine detail as cutting off a guy's moustache, definitely cut away from you. I cannot recommend that enough. In fact, I insist that you cut away from you. So there you go. The third way is a bit of a halfway house. And this is what I'm probably going to do. I've actually just ordered a set of Middle Guard, and it's to cut the shakos off the top of the head. So you cut them off at the shako brim line, and if you've got a friend, or maybe you've got some spare heads from the Perry or Warlord sets, cut their shakos off and just glue them together. So the non-mustachioed head you glue to the Middle Guard shako that you just cut off the mustachioed head. Alternatively, I mean, the final one is you just use covered shakos. So you give them the shakos with cloths on. You get those in the Perry sets. You get them in the Warlord set as well. And just say those guys are Young Guard. That does seem a bit of a shame to me, though, to cover up the really nice eagle that they've got modelled onto their shakos. So we're 25 quid in, and we've already got 2.5 battalions of infantry. That's a really good start. We've got 2 battalions of Old Guard chasseurs and half a battalion of Young Guard. Now, we've used the first of our spare officers with the other spares to make our Young Guard. And with the other one, we can base him separately until we get a better candidate, and he can be our brigade commander. Now, there's 2 ways we can get Old Guard Grenadiers. There's the sensible way, and then there's my way. So, so I'm going to present both here. You can decide which approach you want to go for. Now, the sensible way is to buy another box from Victrix and buy their Old Guard Grenadiers for another $24.95. So that will give us another 2 and a bit battalions with the additional bonus of the sheet of flags as well. And that means that we'll have 4 battalions of Old Guard, 2 of chasseurs, 2 of Grenadiers, and enough to finish off that battalion of Young Guard that we'd already half made. And we've spent less than 50 quid for those 5 battalions. So, I mean, that's really good value. £10 a battalion you've spent there, less than £10 a battalion. And you've got the spare officers as well. Pretty nice. However, one thing that I really like, and I think many people like about Napoleonics, is the uniforms, particularly that of the 4 most famous regiments in the entire war. Having them all in greatcoats seems a little bit of a shame to me. So instead, my approach is not buying the second box of Old Guard Grenadiers, but heading over to Front Rank and their reinforcement packs section for the French. Now, they don't do an Imperial Guard reinforcement pack, but I've had a close look at them, and miniature-wise, so not the paint jobs, but just the actual sculpts, I can't see any difference between a pre-1812 Grenadier and an Old Guard Grenadier. There may be some out there. If you know them, please let me know. They may be just that they're too small to see on a miniature. It might be something like a different style of pocket flap or something crazy like that. But I can't see any difference for myself. So I'm going to recommend that you pick up FNR PK10. That's Mixed French Command pre-1812 in regulation / full dress and bicorn, advancing. Whew, there you go. That's a very snappy title. So one of those and 3 sets of FNR PK11. That's Mixed French Grenadiers pre-1812, full dress and bearskin marching. Now, you can actually buy a battalion pack of Old Guard minis from Front Rank for £29.40. But the only problem I've got with those is they're all in the same pose, so they look a little bit like they're sort of backing dancers for Britney Spears or something, which, I mean, I've got some. I was going to put a picture of them here. I will do in the updated video. I've painted mine as Italian Grenadiers. I really like them. I think they're really nice. They go particularly well in the green. I've got a casualty in the Front Rank as well, but they are all the same pose. They're nice, but these are the Old Guard Grenadiers, and nice just doesn't cut it. I want them to look the absolute best. So, looking at the reinforcement packs, there are 6 minis in each one, and at £7.80 for each, that's £31.20 for the 4 packs. So that takes us to either £49.90 if we bought the Victrix ones, or £56.10, depending on if we bought the Front Rank ones. Now remember, there's not much price difference there. We did get an extra battalion and a half if we went down the Victrix route. Now that is not to be sniffed at. I'm going to carry on down the route for the rest of this video that we went with the Front Rank ones, because I don't want to confuse the situation too much. But please be aware that it's much more efficient to buy the Victrix Old Guard Grenadiers and add those spare figures there to the Young Guard as well. So please bear that in mind. This is just my approach. That's definitely one that's worth considering. Okay, so we've now got an absolutely rock-hard core of 3 battalions of Old Guard with a few spare bodies and a commander. And we're only just over halfway into our budget. Now, as a gunner himself, Napoleon always made sure his Old Guard had the best 6-inch howitzers and 12-pounders available to them. And while they are available from Victrix in plastic, I'm going to recommend that we jump over to the Perrys and grab ourselves FN105 Foot Artillery of the Guard loading 12-pounder and FN106 Foot Artillery of the Guard firing 12-pounder. Now, I normally say when starting off, only go with 1 gun per battery, and that's going to be the case here. So we can add a battery to the Old Guard chasseurs and a battery to the Old Guard Grenadiers. Now, a quick side note, although we've not looked in depth at the army formation yet, the regiments of Old Guard are treated like their own brigades, including the attached artillery. So you've got like the 2 battalions and the artillery, they form a brigade in their own. Now, when I go through the tips and tactics, you're going to see why that's super important. But just be aware at the moment, having that attached artillery, really, really strong. Another £19 for these 2 guns takes us to £75 and 10 pence. Remember, we're going down the route of having gone to front rank for that battalion of Old Guard and not bought the Victrix ones. But the Victrix ones are really good. Consider those as well. So, having spent that, we're at £75 and 10 pence, leaving us with roughly £25 to spend. Great. Now, while we're at the Perrys, we can also get 2 packs of FN84 Young Guard Voltigeurs / Tirailleurs March Attack, and add those to the spares that we got in the Middle Guard box and mix them in. Now, that's going to give us a mixed regiment, some in greatcoats, some not, but that's okay. And it gives us 23 minis, including the 3 command figures. So we're just 1 figure under our 24 figure cap. So my solution is to give that battalion of Young Guard the 2nd drummer that we had left over from the the Middle Guard box. So, this battalion, you've got 2 drummers, which, some people don't like, but that fills them out with 24. And that means that the only mini we've got left over from that from that box, is a single standard bearer. So, that's pretty good. That's getting the maximum use out of that box. And at £15, these brings us up to £90 and 10 pence. As great as the Victrix boxes are, they don't come with bases. So we're going to have to sort some out for our boys. We're going to hop over to War Bases, which is where I always go for them, and pick up some packs of 40 by 40 mil. Now, all the packs we're going to buy are £1.75. It's in the size that varies. So, you get more of one size than you would larger bases. So that's the only thing that changes. In 40 by 40, we get 16 to a pack, and we're going to buy 3 packs, which should give us enough for next month as well. We're also going to buy a pack of bases for our artillery. Now, I've been using 75mm by 100, and you get 4 of those in a pack for another £1.75. Finally, we're going to get some bases for our commanders, and I recommend round bases for commanders, and I'm going to go for 60mm ones. Now, that's going to make our single foot officer that we got spare in our Middle Guard box look a little bit lost in the middle of that giant base. You could put the spare standard bearer with him. That'll bulk him out a little bit. But don't worry, we're going to get some more impressive commanders later on. So he'll do for now. Just blue tack him to the base or something, and he will do for now. But that's another £1.75 and 5 packs altogether, bringing us to £9.25. And that brings month 1 to £99 and 35 pence. Fantastic. I'm not really sure what you can buy for 65 pence these days. I don't know. A bag of Monster Munch, maybe? I don't know how much they are these days. But failing that, we'll add that to our total for next month. So what has our first £100 got us? Well, it's got us 4 battalions of infantry, which is 2 battalions of chasseurs of the Old Guard, 1 battalion of Grenadiers of the Old Guard. We've also got 1 mixed battalion of Young Guards, some in greatcoats, some not. It's got us 2 cannons and a commander for that as well. If we went down the other route and got the Victrix stuff, we wouldn't need to buy the extra Young Guard to mix in, because we'd have the spares from there. So we'd have a little bit money left over there as well. You could perhaps buy the commanders from month 2. You could perhaps buy them this month. So that's maybe something to bear in mind, or perhaps some flags that we'll talk about next month as well. So after a solid start last month, we go into month 2, and remember, we've got an extra £50 bonus to go with us this time. So it's time to get into the reinforcements, which are always much more fun. Now, as regular viewers will know, there is nothing more fun to me than some Polish Lancer action. Doesn't matter what period, they can have wings on their backs, they can have chapkas on their heads, don't care. Now, and again, we're going to go back to Victrix. And these come in a little bit more expensive than normal. These are £27. But we get 12 of them, which is enough for the Polish Lancers and half of a second regiment, which we can paint as the Dutch Lancers if we're doing a Waterloo era one. Or we can just do a large regiment of Dutch Lancers if we're focusing on Waterloo specifically. Now, I'm going to go with the 1.5 regiments approach, because you know me, I love some Polish Lancers. So I think that's a really good start, but we're going to need to find some more figures from somewhere just to fill that one out. We're going to need to find 4 more figures to go with them. Now, a word of warning, the Victrix Lancers are very, very big models. Partly due to the animation of their horses, which are a little bit over the top if I'm honest. So in order to match up the rest of the Dutch regiment, we'll need to look at the ranges of slightly larger 28mm minis. Now normally in this case my go-to would be front rank, but they're just a little bit boring, especially when compared to the over animation of the Victrix ones. So instead, we're going to go to a company that I've not mentioned before in any of these videos, and that's Gringo 40s. Now they do a very small but very nice range of Napoleonics, but at £4.25 a cavalryman, they are not cheap. Now they only have 5 sculpts, and we need 4 figures. And one of those is a kettle drummer. I've actually got him in my Perry Polish Lancers. I didn't say Ring Lancers then. In my Perry Polish Lancers. He's a lovely figure, but we're not going to go for him. We're just going to get the other 4. So that's FLG 01, 02, 03, 04. Now 02, he's got his lance upright. He's going to look a little bit daft with all the others charging, but that's no problem. We can replace his lance with a bit of wire. We've got a spare eagle from the chasseur, well, the middle guard box, sorry, from month 1, so we can pop that on top of the wire, and we've got a standard bearer for our Dutch Lancers. So a little bit happy with that one. So at £17 for the 4, when we add our initial outlay for the Victrix Polish Lancers, that takes us to £44. But it must be pointed out, this is definitely the most expensive way of doing it. You could get cheaper options from either front rank or Perry's, but I don't think they'd mix in with the Victrix very well, which is why I've gone for these. Now, as much as I love the focus on the old guard, that's all we've been doing so far, and we need to beef the young guard up a little bit. We've only got 1 battalion so far, but there's no availability for these guys in plastic. We're just going to have to suck it up and buy metals. Now, I should point out that you can probably convert them from the plastics, but there'd be a bit of a pain in the bum. They've got different cuffs to the regular French, and that's quite a prominent feature. So you'd have to either change them with, you'd have to cut the button rows off the original guys and sculpt them now. It'd be a bit of a pain in the arse. So it's doable if you're very... But as this is a getting started, let's just get those boots on the table. So we're going to go for metals, and we're back to the Perrys for FN84, Young Guard, Voltigeurs, Tirailleurs in March Attack. And this time, we're going to go for 7 packs. Now, at £7.50 each, that's £52.50. And we're going to need to add an FN83, Young Guard, Voltigeur, Tirailleur Command, advancing. So that takes it to £62. Now, it's a bit of a weird way it breaks down, but you basically, in the command pack, you get 2 sets of 3-man command. So that's why we've got the 7 boxes. We'll break that 7th box up, put half in with 1 command, and then move the command over. So that gives us 2 more full battalions. So now we're on 6 infantry battalions and 2 cavalry regiments, and they've got artillery support. Now, we could do this much cheaper. As I say, this is where those spare heads from the middle guard box come in. You could buy the newish Perry mid-war boxes, but you would need to sculpt some epaulets on them and sort out the cuffs as well. It'd be particularly useful if you're doing something like the Danube campaign in 1809. But as it is, I went through earlier on how you can convert the heads, so we'll just leave it there for now. So we're looking at healthy army, but we've not got a huge amount of money left because we're going to need to buy some bases for the cavalry units, and we're going to need to buy the flags for our army. We're also desperately short of commanders. So to alleviate the latter problem, we're going to pick up from the Perrys FN97. That goes with Imperial Guard commanders mounted. And to go with them on their bases, we're going to pick up FN54 mounted Imperial Orderlies, and that should spruce the bases up just a little bit. Now this gives us the commander, the set gives us the commanders of the Old Guard, the Young Guard, and the Artillery in the mounted pack, and they're £18, taking us to £121.50. We're going to head over to war bases again and buy some 50mm square bases. Just one pack will be enough. And that's going to be £1.75. That'll see us. I mean, really, we would have got them last month, but that would have taken us over our limit. We wanted to get those Monster Munch in, so yeah. I mean, realistically, get them in month 1, save on the shipping there as well. Now we've got all the men and the bases that we need. There's one thing that we're missing, and that's flags. Now we've got 6 battalions of infantry and 2 regiments of cavalry, so we're going to head over to GMB Designs, another local Sheffield company, which is why I recommend them, and pick up the best flags on the market. Now I would say that would. I'm not being sponsored by any of these people, by the way. But if they ever do want to sponsor me, then please get in touch. Now you get 2 flags in each pack, so we'll get 2 different packs from the Fanian section for the Young Guard, 1 pack for the Guard Lancers, 1 for the Chasseurs, and 1 for the Grenadiers. That's Old Guard Chasseurs and Old Guard Grenadiers. These packs of flags aren't cheap, though, at £3.75 a pack. So for those, we're going to spend another £18.75. But, they are the Guard. They deserve the best, and they expect the best. Now, with the bases, that takes us to just under our target. We're going to be on 100 and... I'm trying to work it out in my head now. We're going to be on £142. So we've got £8 left over. Now, it's up to you what you want to do with that. You could slightly tip over. This will be my recommendation. Slightly, very slightly, go over our limit and buy yourself FN01, which will get you the Emperor and a couple of Marshals, including Marshal Ney, as a nice centrepiece to your army of the Imperial Guard. Wherever the Imperial Guard was, you would find Napoleon himself. So I think that that's a beautiful way of crowning off our Imperial Guard army. So what has it got us all together? Well, it's got, for £250, we've got 3 battalions of Old Guard, 1 of Grenadiers and 2 of Chasseurs. We'll also have 3 battalions of Young Guard and 2 batteries of cannons and 2 regiments of Guard Lancers. Now, I'll be honest, we've spent more and we've probably got less than we've had in the past. But remember, these are highly elite troops and we won't need as many to start off with. And the majority of our miniatures are metal. A situation we've not been in before. And while there are several ways to cut the costs, i.e. the Victrix Old Guard or converting Young Guard from plastics, we've gone down the route of getting something maybe a little bit special. It's a little bit more expensive, but in the end, I think it's worth it. So, that's it. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If not, well, thank you for making it all the way to the end anyway. I'm going to be doing a series on army lists, so keep an eye out for that. And I hope it gives you some ideas. Perhaps you were unaware that Gringo 40s has a small range of Napoleonics. As I say, they're very nice, but they are quite pricey. Thank you very much for watching. Also, there are hundreds of different manufacturers out there who do the Old Guard. They are one of the most popular formations, probably in Wargaming. So, it will pay to just Google 28mm Napoleonic Old Guard, or just 28mm Old Guard, will probably do it. It's worth a look round, see what tickles your taste buds and takes your fancy. As I said before, twice now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.